Throughout the years, whatever the game, the Red Army's passion is always the same. Decades pass, now we rise anew. Rovers fans, this pod is for you. We won the cup, we ruled the league. A grand final win made us all believe. The world took note with wristbands fall. The Robin superb, now we won it all. Red Army, let's hear you sing with all your might. For your world champions in the red and white. We are okay, and we are the champions of the world.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Robin Pod, which is brought to you by Budget Size Auto Centre, the only car specialist trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of the world famous Hull Kingston Rovers. And joining me for this week's episode is Robin Pod regular James Purling, and we've got someone making their debut, Steph Makey from the Ladies Tackle podcast. I think I got that right. Ladies Talk. I tell you what, Steph, you correct me now. Already, have I got it wrong? Go on.
Ladies Tackle Talk
podcast.
Yes.
He's joining us to talk all things Hull Kingston Rovers. I tell you what, James, we're going to come on to Magic Weekend. We're going to come on to Wakefield on Saturday. But, Steph, before we talk about that, just tell us a little bit more about the podcast that you do and your love for Hull Kingston Rovers.
So the podcast started this season. It's really new. We're in our first season. I was a member of Super League Raw, still am. And the owner of Super League Raw, Dave, approached me sort of in the off season and said, I've got an idea. There's a real niche in the market. There's no female podcasts out there for women wanting to talk about men's rugby league. Do you want to host it? So I said, yeah, can do. Let's give it a whirl. I've never done anything like it before, so I've been learning as I go. And Ladies Tackle Talk was born, and it was created as a platform to give women a safe space to come on and air their views on rugby league, talk about the game, because we love it just as much as the fellas, you know. And sometimes I think some women are a little bit reluctant to get involved in things like this because they're worried about what their opinions, how well their opinions will go down, or what other people's opinions might be on their thoughts. And our podcast is a space for the ladies of Ladies Tackle Talk to obviously air their opinions. We have a WhatsApp group in the background, so we've got lots of women on there. There's probably, I think we've got about 27 members now on there, and not everybody comes on the podcast. It's very much as and when people feel comfortable. So every week it may change the panel, and it's just who feels comfortable at the time. And it's been fantastic in growing confidence of women that are involved with teams all over the country. We've got a member who lives in Canada, which is amazing. We've got a Catalan season pass holder, which is fantastic. And it allows us to give a really kind of balanced, unbiased approach to talking about each round of the Super League and all the games that we've all been to see. And not only that, we all get to meet up as well. We're all going to a few of us are going to the York versus Hull FC game on Thursday, and I'm going along as a guest. I'll be wearing my Rovers shirt, but yeah, we're going along because a couple of our members are Hull FC fans, but we all want to meet up, so we're going to go to that game. So it's just a great community for us women, really.
Yeah, and Steph, I know if it weren't for some of the most important women in my life, I wouldn't be supporting the Kingston Rovers. My mum, my nan, they're the ones who were going to Rovers in the 80s and 70s, and that's how it's then transcended down the family tree. So it's James, it is like, probably slightly digressing, but when they say that rugby league is a family game, as much as it might get derided when they make that announcement in the East Stand, but it really is, and everyone deserves their voice, don't they? Everyone deserves their opportunity to say what they want about rugby league, regardless of who they are.
Absolutely, I think it's just great. Like I said, I've always said that everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got an opinion on the game, and everybody's opinion is valid. You might not agree with it, you might disagree with it, but the fact that we can have these honest debates and everything, and through the whole of the spectator base, and it doesn't matter who you are. You can have these debates, and it's just great. I think also I think what Steph's doing as well. It's obviously great to see as well. The way the women's game is progressing as well. Wembley, the Saints Wigan game, it was a great game, a bit one-sided, but it just really entertaining to watch, and just sort of seeing the skill level and the pace and the power, and there's just that goes into it. It's just like it's fantastic. Love it.
Yeah, and we have got lots to talk about. We've got the Robins victory, 8th in a row over that lot. We've got Wakefield up on Saturday, which is a massive game. Of course, we've got Steve Tilling Robins revisited, and we'll finish off with question time. Before we talk about the game, Steph, let's talk about Magic Weekend, because let's not forget, it was nearly done. A lot of club owners, there's talk of Magic Weekend actually not taking place. They didn't want it to happen. For me, and I've been to countless Magic Weekends, it was one of the best experiences I've ever had. I thought, when you look at a tick box exercise, I think Magic Weekend at the Hill Dickinson in Liverpool ticked every box for me. I thought it was superb, absolutely brilliant. What do you think?
Yeah, I've been to countless Magic Weekends too, and very mixed experiences across. But Newcastle was great. I think Hill Dickinson topped it. I actually came away from this weekend feeling really buoyant about Magic Weekend. I thought the stadium had everything. Do you know what else I really like, Johnno? You was able to go out and get your food from the vendors outside and bring it back into the ground. Yeah. You weren't forced to pay the extortionate prices that they were charging in the ground, which I thought was we're a big family, and when we've got a load of kids with us, it can make for a really expensive weekend. So that was great. I thought the acoustics in the ground, the atmosphere, it was reverberating round. I thought that was fantastic. The 2 screens, the way they had the refs mic'd up. I just thought the whole thing like that, it was really easy to get to. We got the train in from Maghull North train station. We parked there all day for free, 15 minutes on the train, and we were in, and it was just so easy. I thought all the area outside was big. There was lots of space. There's lots of potential to develop that further for next year. My kids were not very happy that the climbing wall weren't there. So, if the RFL are listening, they need to get that back. But I thought the entertainment outside was great. There was music, there was bars. We're not a drinking family. I understand that some people were a little bit aggrieved that there weren't quite enough bars, but for us, it ticked every box. Yeah. The only thing I would say is I get why we do rivals round, but there are some really uneven fixtures. And I don't know whether or not that would need looking at for next year, just to kind of level that playing field a little bit, because that loop fixture can sometimes feel a little bit like an unfair advantage for certain teams. But other than that, I thought it was fantastic, and I can't wait for next year.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Steph, we'll come on to that. And how maybe Leeds Rhinos have already got the league leaders shield based on the fact that maybe that Bradford victory has propelled them to that place. But James, I saw you very far in my distance, not that too far away for me to run over to see you, because my energy levels want giving me the ability to do that. But I know you was there. What was your experience of Magic Weekend?
I really enjoyed it. I've said, like Steph, I've been to a few places, and before that, I was getting a bit skeptical about it. Thinking, what's the point of it now? It's the same old. If I'm honest, I didn't really like Newcastle, but hey, that's just my personal opinion. But I've been to Hill Dickinson for the Ashes test in November, and I must admit, I was a bit wondering how they were going to manage all the transport links and everything, because we went on coach, and I just remember when we went in November, we ended up parking on this. In a timber yard. I managed to we expected a minibus, and the sort of double-decker Acklam's coach rocked up. But that was all well organised. I thought, the stadium itself, you say we knew from November it's an absolutely fantastic stadium. I thought, they actually in the front area where the food bars were and everything, and the activities for kids, etc. I thought that was great. You get a fantastic view wherever you are. I mean, we were on level 2, and you could see everything. And like I say, as Steph said, the screens were just like really top notch. They were really clear. You could see what was going on. And for me, one of the thing I really enjoyed was having the refs mic'd up and explaining why they were going to the video ref, which I sometimes feel as though when you watch a normal Super League game, you think, well, why are they going to the video ref? You're just guessing. And you're texting home, say, well, somebody's watching, and say, what have they gone for? What have they gone for? And the same when they sort of had a captain challenge. Sometimes in normal games, you don't know what's being challenged. But they were saying, who's challenging, why they're challenging it. I think maybe next time what they need to do is have the video referees talking through what they're seeing. I think that would really help explain it, because you know, if you're looking to try and get new people to come to an event like that, then it's stopping the game. And, you know, we're sort of seeing, you know, in football with VAR, people get frustrated about, we don't know what's going on, etc. Just something simple where they're explaining why it's happening and what they're looking for. You know, that will just helps people's knowledge and everything. And then, you know, when the decision's made, helps to understand it. But, you know, I agree. I just thought it was a really good experience. I'm looking forward to going next year. I agree with Steph. I think, you know, probably needs to look at the fixtures. Said, you know, I think we got criticised last year for having Salford, but that was out of our hands because they'd imploded at the end of that season. It is hard to actually see how you're going to get those fixtures, because, you know, you're going to have some teams who, like, I use Wakefield as an example, who you're thinking, well, they came up last year. You think that's an easy game now. You know, you're thinking Wakefield's it's a bloody tough game, and then thinking, you know, they blew Cass off the park, you know, Leeds blew Bradford off the park, and I think that probably secured the league leaders for them. But I think, you know, overall, I thought, you know, it was actually a fantastic experience.
Yeah, and I tell you what, we stayed across the river in Birkenhead. We literally one train across into the middle of Liverpool. And what was really apparent is, like, if you got the metro, if people got it, how switched on there was. They saw a rugby league shirt and they said, do you know where you're going? This is the train, this is the station, this is the stop. If you want to get the ticket, everything was just so switched on to making it such a welcoming environment. And I thought that's what made the difference for me. Like Newcastle, I've always loved Newcastle. I love the Etihad, but Newcastle for me was one that I really enjoyed. But for me, this was like they made the effort. They wanted us there. They wanted a rugby league crowd there to enjoy the experience from getting into Liverpool city centre, whether you got the train from Maghull or whether you got it from the city centre, wherever you went, there was making the effort. Once you got to Everton Stadium, they made the effort. Like people, you know, the stewards, the staff, everyone was so friendly, you know, and also there was a really friendly atmosphere. Bearing in mind it's a derby, you know, it's not always the easiest thing to manage, but it was just a really enjoyable occasion. The fan zone outside was the biggest I've ever seen. You know, the fact that Newcastle can't really do that. The last time I saw something similar was probably at the Etihad, where they had the stuff outside there. It was, even though and I think that's what helps actually, because the stadium's a little bit out of the city centre. It made you stay there, but it made you stay there because there was lots of stuff going on. And I think that's why it was a really enjoyable experience. And even, you know what, gimmicky, put an example on, it was good. It was entertaining. It was more than probably the ticket price you paid. You know, and this is what people forget. The ticket prices are really reasonable, bearing in mind how much rugby league you can watch, let alone seeing a chart act. And I just think it just ticks a lot of boxes. I'm really looking forward to Magic next week, next season. It's interesting because of where they've put it. Does that mean the Challenge Cup final is potentially going to be moved? When you look at where it was scheduled this season, May is going to be a very expensive month if you're going to have Magic, let alone the ones who are going to Dublin as well the week before. It's a very, very tricky time. So I wonder if there's going to be something happening in that space. But no, I just think it was a really, really great experience. And Steph, what makes it even greater is the fact that the Robins came away with 2 points.
Absolutely. I was nervous actually, Jono, for this derby. You know, I think we were having a bit of a rough few weeks, and I think that, you know, recently Hull FC have kind of been on the build a little bit. They had a really strong performance against Wigan, and they seemed like galvanised and really motivated. And my husband works at the uni and he sees them in training, and he came back after that Wigan game and he'd seen him in training. He said, do you know what? I ain't seen him train like that for ages. And it was making me more nervous. They seemed to be like, you know, doubling down on what they were doing. And so I was a little bit nervous going into that game. I did back Hull KR to win by 4. So it was pleasing that it was obviously a little bit more of a margin, but yeah, I wasn't going into it as complacent or as confident as I have previous derbies.
No, and to be fair, James, if you look at the past results that we've had, or maybe not results, but performances, you know, we've put some bad performances in, haven't we? And we've come away with victories where, you know, even, you know, you look back to the York game where we've been okay, we put good points on, but we haven't looked brilliant. So I can understand there was a nervousness, let alone the fact, James, that there was so many players missing. You know, look at, Burgess, Luckley, Hadley, Amon, Pangai Jr., Artemorg, they are in that first team every day of the week when fit. So there was a little bit of adversity, and I know they've got injuries. I'm sick of hearing about how many injuries they've got. They've had injuries for the past 3 years. So it's now new. But we did have a little bit of adversity going into that. So I can understand why, like Steph said, and Steph's not the only one who said, probably like you, James, maybe.
Yeah, we were the same. We were the same. I was just not. I think before the game, I wasn't even nervous. I think it's probably because my expectation was quite low about what the outcome was, and I think if you looked at the 1 to 13, the starting 13, you think, well, actually, that's fair. That's a strong 1 to 13. But then when you look at the bench, and you think who they were bringing off the bench, and you're thinking you've got Booth, you've got Leyland, you've got Lawton, and you've got Desiree. You're basically down to essentially three props. And if one of them goes crock in the game early doors, you're then down to 2, and it just suddenly puts a lot more pressure on you. But yeah, I was a bit nervous, if I'm honest. But then probably after 20 minutes, I'm thinking, I think we've got this.
Yeah, I tell you what, Steph, we got into a little bit of an arm wrestle, didn't we? It was 12-4 at half time. The result ended up 26-12. We got into an arm wrestle a little bit. There was a few things that, defensively they did all right. We sort of then countered that. But ultimately, I do think that the quality, once the game was getting on, it did feel like we was going to come away with that victory because I do genuinely think it was a quality of the starting 13 which led us to that victory. Jez Litton coming back for me was massive. I don't think it was his best game by any means, but he seems to lift him in being on the pitch. I think Mikey Lewis, he, again, probably won his best performance, but in a derby, he seems to niggle. He just seems to get under the skin and comes up with some plays now. And I can understand why you was nervous going into the game, but at no point during the game, Steph, I was nervous that we would lose.
No, and I think once they got out there, and I mean it was a strange lineup anyway. I wanted having Rocky at full back and putting Jack Broadbent on the wing, and we had Booth in on the bench. We've got a winger there, and obviously Kershaw had come back from Huddersfield as well. So it was a little bit. I thought it was a little bit left field doing that. I think I thought Rocky had a steady game. I thought he was all right. I don't think he did too much wrong, to be honest, but it was a little bit of a strange decision, I thought. But, in Willie we trust, and it paid off in the end, didn't it? But, yeah, I thought Jai Whitbread was sensational. I thought he had a fantastic game, probably his best in a Rovers shirt. But I also thought, Tom Davies, he got off to a bit of a rocky start, but I think he seemed to sort of build it back up. He made 170 metres, did Tom Davies. He was our top meter maker in that game. And he just goes about his business on that wing. I know there was a couple of tries gone begging and the ball went out and whatnot, but Tom Davies just goes about his business. He's reliable, he's dependable. And I think having that experience and the two halfbacks in Mikey and Tyrone doing what they do, having Jez there in the obviously we didn't have our starting fullback, but the vast majority of the spine was in place. It steadied that ship. Carl is a hooker, but as a prop.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Steph, you made a great point about Davis. He was top meter maker. He had an average gain of 9 metres. He wasn't the only one. Petty Hiku, average gain of 9. Jack Broadbent. But I'll tell you what was really crucial for me, James, in that victory, and I don't think we'd have won it without him, was Jesse Sill coming back, because he had to counter Hemen Essiesi. They went strong in the middle, and I genuinely think if he wasn't playing as good as Whitbread is, and we'll talk about Whitbread very shortly, because I think it was one of his best games. He really stood up on the back of some indifferent performances that ultimately led him to being dropped to the reserves. But so and he went off with a HIA check as well, which really made me nervous, James, because I thought if he goes off for the rest of the game, we're really struggling at that point.
Yeah.
But 20 tackles, 10 takes, 90 metres, an average gain of 9 is quite strong for down the middle. So I think he was really crucial to that win on Saturday.
It was, and I think I think some of the last few games he's been playing, he has looked a bit jaded from where he has been. But I thought, on Saturday, I just thought it was just immense. He looks reinvigorated, and it just sort of caused them problems all the time. And as I say, when he went off that HIM, must have been my heart was in my mouth about hoping he's going to pass, because, like I said, if he'd have gone out, then we would have been really struggling. But I also want to sort of give a big raps to Reece Martin. I thought he played his best game I've seen from a long time. Again, I think we were talking before the game about, I think there's one or two players who probably needed to up the game and bring a big performance on Saturday. And I thought Reece certainly did. I thought he looked strong, he looked powerful, he sort of caused them problems, and he looked fast. I think that's one of the things I think is underestimated about him. Because he's been playing the sense before, so he has got that pace, and obviously he's got his goal kicking. But I thought he was really good as well.
Yeah, and I'd tell you what, Steph, it's a great point that James makes, because there's no doubt Willie Peters will have been expecting some of his senior pros to step up, and Reece Martin was one of them, because for me, when I saw Jake Arthur getting man of the match, I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand why they do a fan vote, but it makes a bit of a mockery when you're on the losing side, and also he didn't necessarily be the best player on the pitch. But when people were saying to me in the pub afterwards, well, who would you give man of the match? I said, I'll tell you what, Reece Martin didn't have put a shift in, let alone his kicking. I know he missed one, but his kicking really was so valuable. It's almost like we forget about his kicking. It's like we just expect it to happen, Steph.
How the tables have turned, John, as well, from having problems with having a kicker, not having a kicker that's out and out like Reece Martin and putting the points over, to where we're at now, and we're spoilt for choice. I know obviously Morg's out at the moment, but we're spoilt for choice, and Mikey's kicking has been a lot better this season when he's had to debutise for Martin as well. So, we've gone from one extreme to the other, haven't we?
Yeah, and I'd say, like you said, Reece Martin was brilliant. Jar Whitbread, I know we mentioned him, but he looked, when you see him celebrate the try he scored, that I think that was more, the celebration was more than just a try. It was almost an explosion of, like, I don't know, justification. Like, I'm back. Like,
confidence.
Yeah, confidence. I've done a good. He knows he's played well. He's probably took some heat off Willie Peters because of how he's played previously, being dropped down, like I said, to the reserves. But for me, I think he was tasked with doing a job. He knows he's accomplished it. And not only that, he's then gone and scored a try, which was crucial. And I think it was well deserved, because Jar Whitbread, he's played a few positions in that forward line. He's a big boy, but he really came on top for us on Saturday.
Yeah, he definitely did. And he's got a knock on in him. And every time he gets the ball, I'm nervous sometimes with him. I think, oh, here we go. But actually, he kept a lid on that, I thought, and that pass through for his try was sublime. It was so flat, and he just on the end of that ball and straight through, didn't he, and put it down. And it was, I thought that the injury to Davy Litton certainly switched the momentum a little bit as well. Obviously, that was quite a heavy tackle, wasn't it? Mikey Lewis was in amongst that as well.
To be fair, Steph, and I mean this sincerely, I'd have rather kept him on the pitch, because I don't think he's that great. I think, I don't want to, his injury, but I don't think I think for all the talk about him, I don't think he's that great. I'd rather have had him on the pitch, but I understand the point, because it did disrupt them as well.
Yeah, exactly. And that was it. And, there was a little bit of controversy, wasn't there? A little bit of complaining around that tackle as well. And it takes their mind off what they're trying to do, doesn't it? Yeah. When they're concentrating on what's going on the floor down there. So, yeah, thought it was... I did enjoy the game. I don't often enjoy a derby. I enjoy the result. I don't often enjoy it when it's actually going back to enjoy the game.
Yeah. So. Well, it's a good point, because you endure it more than you enjoy it. It's all about nobody cares.
Get to the end, isn't it?
Get to the end and you know what? That'll never die, will it? 8 in a row. When we go play them in a few weeks' time, we'll be going for 9 in a row. You don't care how they get it. It's just getting that win. I suppose, if you look at the lineup, James, I suppose the biggest surprise, well, maybe not the biggest surprise, is the fact that Noah Booth didn't get any minutes. Bill Leyland, he didn't look very happy, did he? He did not look happy being took off. And I don't think Willie Peters trusts him that much, does he? Because he came out and said after the game, the reason he got hooked was because he saw the game slightly change, and basically they couldn't afford to have Jez Litton off the field, which why I can understand why Bill Leyland wasn't happy. It's really funny, isn't it, how Willie Peters trusts certain players more than others. And James, we've spoke about it so many times on the Robin Pod. He's got a set team. And if you don't, you've got to be really, really good to sort of displace anybody else. And that was a great example of that with Bill Leyland just playing so few minutes.
It was, and it was quite, a bit surprising. I say, obviously, we didn't see the Leyland's reaction until afterwards. But I remember getting home thinking, I'm sure I didn't see Noah Booth come on. But then I was thinking about it and thinking, you've got to give big raps to Willie Peters for the way he's managed the interchanges, because you thought he's obviously clearly known he's got a weakened, a really light bench. He's only got Lawton and Desiree who have got any forwards on there. To be able to manage them through 80 minutes of a blood and thunder derby against that lot, and to then come out winning and still only use 16 players. Which obviously we've done that before against them. Effectively, like I said, with Leyland and playing 7-8 minutes, it's effectively 15 players. But I think that was probably really, I think that was a masterclass in from Willie Peters in being able to manage that and manage those. Bringing Sue off, bringing Lawton on, bringing Desiree on, take Desiree off, and just swapping around, just keeping it momentum going. And we did just not lose anything at all, with the changes or anything. And that's, except probably apart from when Leyland came on. And I think that's probably just, really smart moves from Peters.
Yeah, I think I was going to say, Steph, just before you jump in, what didn't help as well is I thought Elliot Minchella went to prop as well. And we just sort of lost. Do you know what? I know we're really versatile, Steph, and you might be bringing, but we're not that versatile. We can literally start playing every forward in every position. There's got to still be a bit of continuity there, aren't they?
There has. And what I was going to say about Bill Leyland and the Jez Litton issue, Jez Litton is in my opinion, the best 9 in Super League when he's fit, without a doubt. And Bill Leyland has got big shoes to fill. It's not like that, he's not just like a run-of-the-mill hooker, is he, Jez Litton? He brings something really special to the team. And I think when he goes off, the momentum is going to change. And in a crucial game like that, and the heat's on a little bit, I can totally see why Willie Peters did what he did. And it takes a brave and a tough coach, doesn't it, to make those calls in big games like that when you're going to upset your players.
Yeah, and that's one being a feature of, I don't know, during Willie Peters' tenure, he's not been afraid to make them big changes. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what happens this week with Darryl Clark suffering that injury in the Wigan Saints derby, because they're desperate for a hooker right now. So whether Bill Leyland gets the call again, but Willie Peters got a job to do, and his job was to win that game. One player who was going a little bit under the radar, James, and I was a little bit critical of him. I didn't see what he was bringing to the side. Desiree, I tell you what, he's coming on and just quietly going about his business. He made 8 carries, 72 metres, an average gain of 9 metres, but really crucial times when he's coming on. And I think he's a player who many people thought he wouldn't feature. And, let's get it right. If luckily Hadley, Amon, Pangai Jr. are fit, he wouldn't be probably featuring. But he's definitely coming to the side and really made a contribution in that middle part of the pitch.
It has, yeah. I think, like I say, he has certainly progressed and developed as he's come to the club. And I think, when he signed him, I think he's one of those players that when he's playing against you, you think he just seems to give a lot of penalties away. And I thought that's what, for me, when he signed, I thought, oh God, it's going to be a big penalty machine. But he just seems to cut that out completely. Touch wood. That seems to have gone completely, and he just be really focused in just driving forward. And I think when he does come on to off the bench, he just does bring a lot of energy and a lot of power and pace. And I think he does. He just goes under the radar. And see him walking around at the end of the game, he's clearly enjoying it at the club. And I just it's just great to see him. Like I say, you have that confidence that if he does come on, and I'm full confident he's going to come on. He's going to put a shift in, and he's going to sort of do some knocking about.
Yeah, and Steph, I think what was apparent is that Willie Peters wanted to see the Robins go back to the side that he'd become used to. And there's no doubt whatsoever when you see Tom Davis making 170 metres, Peter Hickey making 102 metres, Jack Broadbent making 102 metres, average gains of 9 metres each. But also what was really pleasing to see is the missed tackles dropped was down to 26 missed tackles. We had 35 players of the ball in their 20, but they had 27 and we repelled them. And we sort of, for me, we went back to, you want perfect, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
We went back to a little bit of that defensive performance, albeit with players missing, but we went back to that sort of tried and tested method that would become used to. Big meters from the kicks, and then when we do defend, we front up. And that's the one thing I took away from the game. Regardless of the victory, it was just, we seemed to go back to the old Rovers way that would become used to.
Yeah, absolutely, John. And I don't think you can take away from the fact either that, Michael Lewis is our top try scorer, 19 tries, 16 in Super League. Budgie's right after him with 16, 13 in Super League. Without Budgie, that wing is not what it was either. So that ability to score those tries and that link up that they have there, the defence is all the more important, isn't it? Because if we're not putting those tries over, we need to make sure that we're defending. We currently in Super League, we have 129 overall tries. We are the top team by 2. Wigan have caught up to us. They're on 127 tries overall. But we did have quite a big margin, and that gap has closed since we've now, obviously, we haven't got Budgie and up that link up that was going on with Mikey Lewis and on that wing. So hopefully, I know that in Willie Peters' press conference, he was talking about his pain threshold. So I think Budgie is good to go as soon as he can bear whatever injury that he's got. And if we can get him up and running again, hopefully we can get that attack going again, and that'll complement the defence, won't it? If we can keep him out and we can put some points on the board, we should start seeing some better results coming through.
Yeah, and I say what, there was lots of stats. There was lots of records being made. Jack Broadbent getting his 150th appearance. There was Reece Martin with his kicks. I tell you what was a really interesting stat was the fact it was James Michael Lewis's birthday.
Yeah.
25 years old now. He's not the young kid who's trying. He's now, when you look at it, 25 years old. He's now sort of coming of age. Don't get me wrong, he's not the most accomplished. He's not, the best player that he will become. But also, he's not a kid anymore now, is he?
Yeah.
And to be fair, I do think he had a good game. He seems to ruffle the feathers. The try that he scored, just some of the efforts that he makes, was really pleasing to see. And it's really interesting to see how he goes on for the rest of the season, James, because with a World Cup coming up, there's players who are probably playing themselves into the team, the England team, more than what Michael Lewis is doing at the moment. So he's got a real big challenge ahead of him, because there's a lot more responsibility placed on him, surely just because of his age as well, where he is.
Yeah, there is. I think. This seems a bit of a daft thing to say when you think of a couple of incidents that have happened through the season, but I think he has seemed to matured quite a bit. In terms of, I think it doesn't seem he's not had that sort of spark that could just turn the game on its head in an instant this year. I think he's been a lot more grafting, and that's probably why people are thinking he's not had as good a season. I thought he had a good game on Saturday. I thought defensively he was solid. I think sometimes a lot of teams target him when in the attack to sort of think he's going to be an easy pushover. I think he certainly, for me, is sort of certainly stepped on that sort of level. And the try he took, I thought it was just opportunist in a way, really. Just like that gap just opened up for him, and I think his celebration in front of that lot, I thought was saying, yeah. Look at me.
It was his own kick, James, as well, wasn't it? It was his own kick.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it came from his own kick. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That they just couldn't deal with, and he was there following up like a good halfback should do to pick up any pieces, and he basically could have driven two double decker buses through that gap. And I thought he had a very good. I thought he had a really good, solid game on Saturday. And like I said, John, there's other players who are coming in and around the Super League now, probably more from a creative point of view, have probably had better seasons this year than what he has. But I think he's had that certainly brought that solidity to his game that has probably been, and maturity that has been probably missing in previous games, where he's just probably gone sulking a bit. But this year he's prepared to graft.
Yeah, 100%. I'll tell you what, we'll wrap up the game very shortly. I suppose, Steph, when you look at the bench, the fact that Noah Booth didn't get on, we've already talked about Bill Leyland and his lack of minutes. Was it an opportunity maybe to put Kobe Wainhouse into that side just to give us a little bit in the middle, or do you think he got it? Well, he did get it right, didn't he? Willie Peters did get it right because we came away with a victory, I suppose. But when you see players not coming off the interchange bench, you wonder, was it an opportunity for somebody else? I wonder who Noah Booth would have been on there to cover. That's what interests me.
I wonder if it was whether or not Broadbent on the wing was able to hold his own out on that wing. He's not a winger, is he? So, whether or not he was reliable on that wing and whether he was able to cope. Maybe it was to cover that, I don't know. I also think that, looking at it from the other perspective, Johnno, if he's on there, he's on that bench, we don't need to use him. We were doing the job without using that interchange. Is there any point risking him? We've got some injuries racking up now. If we don't need to use him, is it wise just to keep him sat there so that he's fresh for next week if he's needed? I suppose there's two schools of thought for that, isn't there?
Yeah, and what it's become apparent is Willie Peters is very, if you ask him about injuries, he's not very forthcoming. He doesn't give a lot away about, I'm no clearer really about who's going to play against Wakefield from that list of players who are injured. He don't give a lot away. He don't like talking about injuries, does he? It's always one of the things he shuts down quite quickly. So, hey, we don't know. We'll see what happens. If we talk about Magic Weekend in terms of the results, we talked about the success of it, Steph, in terms of the event and what a great spectacle it was. We've got to be a bit honest as well, because other than the Rovers game and the Wigan and Saints game, as a neutral, the performances, the results weren't very close, albeit the Giants York game was quite entertaining because, there's as bad as each other, as good as each other, whatever way you want to. But obviously we saw. Well, to be fair, the most pleasing result was the Lee victory over Warrington, especially when then Warrington fans came into the ground and started trying to antagonise every Rovers fan that they could do. So yeah, that was very pleasing. The Toulouse result, that wasn't even at Magic, but I've never to see the scoreline at half time and then to see the full time result was absolutely staggering. Wakey obviously demolishing Castleford, Leeds beating Bradford, and that victory for me, Steph, is why I think the League Leaders Shield's gone now. I can't see Rovers making up there, even with a game in hand. I think our defence of the League Leaders Shield's gone purely, not purely, but because of that fixture there has just put that extra 2 points that are just, I think for us, it's just too far for us now.
Yeah, they're on 28 points, aren't they, at the top of the Super League? And, even if we win our game now, we're still 4 points behind, aren't we? So, yeah, I agree. I think I said exactly the same this week on Ladies Tackle Talk. I think that Leeds have probably got one hand now on the League Leaders Shield, and I think that anybody is going to struggle now to catch them in the form that they're in. They've got Mike Seaver on the wing, who you give him a ball, and he's barging his way over, isn't he? 28 tries in a season, and we're only at round 17 is outrageous. He's going to be potentially a record-breaking season for him, isn't he? And Jake Connors found his club, and Brody Croft, I think he's on 17 tries as their second top try scorer, which is an incredible amount as their second highest try scorer. I just think we're not going to be easy to catch them. And obviously Leeds have already played at Odsal. I can't think off the top of my head. I think they've still got the return fixture, haven't they, at Headingley? Bradford's still got to go to Headingley.
Yeah, Leeds have got their kind running. They've still got to play, I think, a couple of the top teams. But when you look at everyone else who've got to play, it's very, very kind. Which brings us to James. There's no perfect formula, is there, for the fixtures if it's a loop fixture?
Yeah.
How do you sort it? Derbies, I think, let's be honest, first weekend in Everton Stadium, the derby, Hull Rovers brings people in. It creates that interest. It makes people want to go. Wigan Saints, Leeds Bradford. It does make people want to go. I couldn't understand, though, why people want to go back to the old formula, which was league place. But even then, that's not perfect, is it? Because one season you can be great, and then the next you're not, and that's skewed. And other than literally drawing it out of a hat like you would in a Challenge Cup, I can't see how you get the right formula for picking the fixtures in a loop fixture.
No, I don't. It is going to be difficult. Like I said earlier, I think last year we played Salford, and that was the fixtures were based on previous season's league placings, and I think Salford had finished fourth. Right. So you're thinking actually it's going to be a tough game, but then they just imploded last season, so we benefited from that. And people then said, "Oh, you played 3 times," and it's difficult. I think the problem is when they have you're right. When they have the derbies, it's something that can have the advertising hook on and sort of get the interest, help build the interest in the whole event. But then I think also by the same token, it then potentially starts diluting the derby in the season. I think watching the Wigan Saints game, and that was obviously they played each other in the Challenge Cup semi-final as well. So that's the third time they played each other already this season, and they've got another one coming up in a couple of weeks or so in Super League. So. Yeah, it is a difficult one. I honestly don't know what the right formula is, unless it's just doing, you just like I say, just picking out a random draw. People have talked about having a round of the Challenge Cup, their Challenge Cup quarterfinals. I don't know whether that would really work or not, but because people obviously want to plan and everything, don't they? When their plans are going to the event, but yeah. I'm not a big fan of the derby myself, but I can sort of see why they want to do it.
Well, I tell you what, before we bring Steve Tiller in for Robin's Revisited, I'm quite happy to keep the derby, because while we're playing lower league opposition, team struggling, I'm quite happy with that 2 points guaranteed. So I don't want to change. The last thing I'd want to do is play a better team, a team who were challenging near the top. So I'm very much for extending that 8 in a row to 8, 9, 10. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Before we talk about Wakefield, though, and what's coming up on Saturday night, Steve Till joins us for Robin's Revisited.
Hi Chris, hope everyone's well, and we're going to go back to July 2008 for this week's Robin's Revisited. It was a bad period for Rovers. We've gone through the whole of June without a win, and we've gone through the first 2 weeks of July without a win, and our next match was against Wigan. So it'd been tough, and it looked like it was going to get tougher. Justin Morgan chose a team that had some changes. He'd put Rhys Lovegrove on the wing. He'd put Benny Galea at standoff. He'd put Paul Cook at loose forward. And we were playing, it also included a fairly new recruit in Michael Dobson, who was an ex-Wigan player. We were playing a Wigan team that included a guy called George Carmont. Now, George Carmont almost became a Rovers player. In fact, he was within about 10 hours of becoming a Rovers player when Justin Morgan got a call to say that Jake Webster was available from Australia. So it was a big call because Justin changed his mind. Instead of signing George Carmont, he signed Jake Webster. So it was Carmont that came, together with a few people from Wigan who came to Rovers. Darryl Goulding was in the Wigan team, Joel Tompkins was in the Wigan team, as was Liam Colburn, and none other than Nicky McAlorum. So it was a strong Wigan team that came. And although Rovers in the match started off well, they scored the first try, in fact, with Kirk Netherton. Yeah, Kirk Netherton, who was playing hooker in the Rovers side, going over from dummy half in the 4th minute after Jake Webster had been held up on the line. But soon after, Trent Barrett got Joel Tompkins away at the other end for Tompkins to romp 40 metres and score moments later. And then George Carmont, the guy I've just mentioned, scored twice in the space of 10 minutes to give the visitors a clear advantage. But Rovers held their ground after that, and Dobson scored the first of what was to be 4 tries in the 26th minute. So Rovers were behind 16-10 on the scoreboard. But then came an amazing second half. It began pretty much in similar vein to the first, with Pat Richards converting his own try in the opening minute for Wigan. But Dobson got his second, and John Steele, the winger, he scored in the 52nd minute to level matters, with Paul Cook converting both of them. And then Dobson was over the line again, scoring his hat-trick before the hour mark with a kick through on the last tackle. And Cookie's conversion put Rovers back into the lead for the first time since the 4th minute. Could we hold on and win, gain the first victory in over 6 games? Well, Dobson added a drop goal in the 64th minute, and then the scrum half bagged a 4th try 10 minutes later with Cook converting. So Rovers are still in front. We're coming up to the 70th minute, and we're still in front. We're holding out from Wigan. We're attacking well, and those attacks paid dividends with Rhys Lovegrove on the wing, wrapping things up with an unconverted 78th minute touchdown. So the final score was Rovers 39, Wigan 22 in front of 8,000 odd spectators. That was the one that broke the mould for Rovers and helped them stay up in the division. Great victory, great performance from Michael Dobson, and went on to make many other great performances himself. But a superb afternoon's entertainment, as I say, for the crowd in excess of 8,000.
Well, I tell you what, a great memory there. And I tell you what, about Robins Revisited, did anyone see Graham Horn at Magic Weekend? Not only Graham Horn, Dane Tills. Did people see him at Magic Weekend? Did you see him?
No, but I saw Chris Wellham. Chris Wellham was there. Spoke to Chris.
Yeah, Chris Wellham. Yeah, so it's, I mean, when I saw Dane Tills, I was like, how's the Dane train got here? But no, great to see. Look, let's move on to Saturday against Wakefield. I tell you what, Steph, the beat us 26-24, just not that long ago. There's a lot of smoke. Well, I don't want to say smoke, but they're at Wakefield. The sort of a lot of people's outside tip for doing really well. A lot of journalists seem to be really liking them at the moment. It's a great opportunity for the Robins to put a statement victory out there, not only to maybe put Wakefield a little bit further down, but it's really crucial for the league table now, isn't it? Because like we said about Leeds being where they are, we really need to make a push for that second place if we want that home semi-final, and there's no better time to do it on Saturday night against Wakefield.
No, absolutely. And obviously we're going to have Luckily back in the fold. Obviously, we know Sue's back. Amon's not going to be playing, is he? Because I think this is his 2nd week that he's not available. I think Willie said a couple of weeks. Budgie, again, we're not sure. And I'm not sure on the timescales of Arthur Morg either. I thought he weren't far off. So whether or not he'll be in the 21.
Well, look, this is the Willie Peters smoke and mirrors. Like, nobody's quite clear about who's where and doing what.
No, and Litton was back early as well, wasn't he? So, I think, he put in a shift and he seemed to come through it unscathed. And we owe him one, don't we? We owe him one. And we're at home. It's a Saturday. I'd like to think that we're going to have enough in the tank to go out there and get the job done with the home advantage. It was a tough game at the DIY Kitchen Stadium, wasn't it? Well, with the red cards and whatnot, and it was it was a game full of a bit of adversity, wasn't it? It was a little bit hot-headed, but yeah, I think it's going to be a tough game. I don't think they're going to roll over, but I do think we'll take the points.
Yeah, I mean, James, when you look at the league table, Wakefield 4th on 24 points. bear in mind we've got that game in hand. You know, they have been good, haven't they? They've been all right, Wakefield. I still think they've not been great, but they've come up with some great performances in individual games. And for me, that loss to them, you know, that was us losing the game rather than them winning it. But that said, they got off the line. And for me, I think on the back of some average performances for Rovers, if we're being kind, it'd be great to nail a victory at home against Wakefield. And because everybody else will then maybe prick their ears up to go, no, because there's a lot of talk about Rovers being sort of done now. You know, they're not the side that there was. You know, we're in 5th place. But I still think this is a great side. We're the world champion. And this is what people still keep forgetting. This side are the world champions. And a lot of people talking them down. So that's why I'm really hopeful and expecting a really good performance against Wakefield, because I do think there's an opportunity to relay a marker down for the rest of the season. Like the running, when you look at what we're nearly the last third of the season, close to the last third of the season, it's an opportunity to lay a real marker down. Bearing in mind, we've got Warrington next and then the Derby. And then we go into them free fixtures in 9 days. You know, there's a real opportunity to gain points quite quickly.
Yeah, I think, agree with both of you. I think it's going to be a very tough game, but I think we do owe them. I think, that game at Bellevue, I can't remember what they call it this now. It was one of the ones that we got away. We lost it, managed to get back into it to win it, to be leading it, and just losing it to death. And the frustrating thing is that the team last year, you feel as though wouldn't have lost that; they would have held out to get the points. I think it's in the context of the season. I think 2 wins on Saturday. I think for me, it's a must win to basically, like I said, to say, look, this is we're not going away. We're still in contention. We're not going to give our trophies up without a fight. And I look back to how we played recently against Lee. If you look at Lee, I think they're similar sort of position to Wakefield, who probably, they've come into a bit of form. And watching it on, listening on the coach back on Saturday, they were saying that I think Lee have only lost, the last 10 games, have lost 2 games, both of them against Rovers. So we know we can dig it out. We can, win ugly. And I think it's going to probably need to be an ugly win on Saturday, whatever it is. They're going to need to do whatever it takes to get those 2 points. And I think having won on Saturday, against obviously a lower league team, much lower in the league, the fact that we could sort of get a win out of that the circumstances, when backs against our wall, should stand us in good stead for Saturday. But I said it's going to be a tough game. They've got quality players, particularly the forwards. Matt Meekin is, I think for me, is one of the most underrated players in Super League, if I'm honest.
Well, if anything, he's getting better the older he gets.
He is, that's what I mean. He's getting better and better. I thought he was good at Catalan. He was good before he went to Catalan, while he was originally at Wakefield. He's gone to Catalan, he improved there. He's come back to Wakefield. And he's just getting better. And he's sort of one of those players. If you look at other teams and thinking, you had to pick one player from each team to play who you have in your team. For me, he would be that player from Wakefield in the Rovers team. But the backs they've got good quality backs. So yeah, he's going to be tough. We have to bring our A game on Saturday night. No 2 ways about it. But I say the confidence that we've got from Saturday will hopefully stand us in good stead. And
and I'll tell you what, there's like James mentioned there, Steph, there's no doubt whatsoever we're at a stage of the season where the result is more important than the performance. It is about getting over the line, getting them 2 points, because we've seen, when the Robins were not competing at the top, there was always the Wigan side who came late, Leeds side who just, at the right end of the season, they got their act together. For us, we're in that position now. We've got to grind out these wins. We don't know who's playing on Saturday. As we record this, we don't know who the squad is announced. We don't even know, even when the squad is announced, so we'll actually line up, because we're not quite sure about the injury status of a lot of players. But we're in that grind of just getting the victories. And I think that's why the victory at Magic Weekend hopefully will stand us in good stead in terms of just, it wasn't pretty, it wasn't flashy, but we got the job done. And that's ultimately, for me, what we need to do against Wakefield.
Yeah, and as well, not to take away from the fact that other teams are starting to pick up injuries. You know, we're going to have had some bad news, haven't they, in terms of Farriman's out for 12 weeks. You know, they haven't got Bevan French again. They've obviously not lost Nathan Lowe to that awful injury, and Semba's out for a month. So they're going to be battling their own injury crisis. And we're going to have normally the team that come with a late charge, don't they? And they come good towards the end. But I think they're going to be doing it tough. You know, Leeds haven't really had to ride any storm yet. And it's really that, I mean, Saints, we know, you know, they've been blowing hot and cold kind of all season. And I think we're at a stage now where we need to kick on, and we need to capitalise on other teams' adversity and injuries. And it, you know, there isn't really a better time to go about doing that than from this week.
Yeah, and I tell you what, and what we always try to do on the Robin Pod as well is, I think on Saturday the crowd's got a big part to play.
Yeah,
you know, I think there's been I've seen on lots of forums, I've seen people on the Robin Pod saying, you know, there's an element of entertainment and waiting for things to happen, but there's also what the Rovers crowd has always been really good at is motivating the play, getting behind them at certain times, and I think that's where on Saturday we've got a real role to play in terms of pushing them boys on, you know, and not waiting for things to happen. I think the last home game, we started to see that come back again. And I don't think it's entitlement. I think it's just some people, quite rightly, you know, the world champions, we're the league leaders winners, we're the grand final winners, we're the Challenge Cup winners, probably expecting to see some maybe better performances. But that said, that was built on unity, that was built on the crowd, that was built on the team being as one. And I think we've got a real good opportunity on Saturday night. You know, hopefully the weather's going to be great. It should be. We're in summer. You know, lots of people merry, enjoying, you know, watching the Robins, a sold-out crowd. It's a real good opportunity for everyone who's listening to this on the Robin Pod, on podcasts, on YouTube, just to, you know, really get behind the boys, because this victory could propel us on. And don't forget, Warrington aren't doing great. So if that can go into the next game, you know, we've got a bit of momentum to build up, haven't we, Steph?
Yeah, absolutely. They've got a raft of injuries as well, haven't they? I mean, Sneed had probably his worst game in a wire shirt that I think I've seen him play. He had a terrible game, I thought, at Magic Weekend. You know, they've
he had his best game.
Yeah.
Best game since the semi-final.
It was as good as the Challenge Cup semi-final.
Well, yeah, there was that, yeah, I get your point.
All jokes aside, Steph.
No, but they're not playing well. They're not playing well. And this is what kind of the point that I was making previously in terms of, you know, Wigan have got their injuries. Warrington are not playing well. Saints are not playing well. You know, yes, Leeds are a bit of a sticking point, but we've got an opportunity now to capitalise on other teams' misfortune, and other teams not playing as well as they should be. And you're absolutely right. The crowd means everything. England play later on Saturday night. So you'd like to think that a lot of the crowd, whether or not you like football, people get swept up in that. So you'd like to think that they're going to be buoyed by that it's going to be a bit of a warm-up to the game later on. So, yeah, you'd like to think that people are going to be good spirits, looking forward to both matches, and we can hopefully get behind the boys and help push them home.
Yeah, I've got no doubt whatsoever people will be enjoying Saturday night. It's going to be set out to be a great night. I think the Robins will be ready for it. I think Wakefield will be coming to challenge us. So I think it's setting up to be a fantastic match. We saw it was a fantastic match when we played them at Wakefield, you know, previously. The weather wasn't great, don't get me wrong. I got absolutely soaked. It's probably going to be very different this Saturday with the sunshine hopefully shining up on us. But yeah, it's a great opportunity for the Robins to lay down a great marker victory, I think. But before we finish the Robin Pod, we've got question time. We've got lots of questions to get through. Steph, are you ready for it? It's going to be you've already had an eye on some of the questions coming through. But before we bring in Steph and James for question time, And the beauty with question time is, James, they're completely random, so they're not even questions. So Rich Fewless on Instagram, he says, interesting how we keep getting Kendall.
Oh God, yeah. Jan said to me tonight, we've got Kendall again. I just could not believe it. That's 3 games in the last 4, and it's just thinking, I've had enough of the Chris Kendall show. It's crap. It's like Mrs. Brown's Boys. It should be consigned to the dustbin. So I am not looking forward to Saturday night already.
I tell you what, on a little side note, Steph, and just to bring it, the 6 agains at Magic Weekend, especially in the derby, I lost track of. I couldn't keep up with what was, and I think Jake Arthur's try was scored on the back of 2 6 again, back to back.
Yeah.
I couldn't keep up with what's what's allowed. It just we're at the start of the season. It seemed very clear about what was ruck infringement, what was quick play the balls, and we seem to have gone into this middle space now where the referees are allowing certain things to slow it down, but if you're in an attacking position near the try line, they speed it up. I'm quite confused. What do you think, Steph?
It's inconsistent, and I think that's what people are struggling with. And how, if we can't make head nor tail of it, how can the players that are being fueled by adrenaline make head nor tail of it either and know when to unload that ruck? I do think our ruck speed was actually a lot quicker at Magic Weekend to what we'd seen previously. I thought they'd tidied that up a lot, but you're absolutely right. And when they're giving a 6 again on the first tackle, I kind of think, well, what is it to gain really from that? It's the first one, and they're giving a 6 again. They're only gaining 1 tackle. It's just, I just think it's overdoing it sometimes, and I think that it can be managed in better ways.
Yeah, I'm sick of it. 6 again.
Yeah.
Nick Sims, he says, James, I'll ask you this one. He says, after Saturday's performance, has Carl Lawton found his best position at prop?
It could well have done, yeah. I mean, seems to play everywhere else, doesn't he? So why not have a go at prop? And I thought, it was so. I thought he had his best game for a while on Saturday.
Yeah, really, and to be fair, I mean, there's a few people knocking Carl Lawton. I'm not his biggest admirer in terms of when he plays that hooker and his distribution. I think some of his passings, but actually, when you look at why we've brought him in, Saturday for me highlighted exactly why we brought him in. Second row, prop, hooker. I don't think he played loose forward.
He probably would do, though, wouldn't he?
But he'd probably go to wing if he could. He's just a decent player in any position you put him in. Right. Okay. Adam Wadforth, he says, I'll tell you what, Steph, he says, was that Jai Whitbread's best Rovers performance in the Magic Weekend derby game? I think he goes a bit unnoticed at times, despite nearly scoring double figures for tries this season. He has scored a lot of tries, hasn't he?
He has. He's got a try in him as Jai Whitbread. I think he's got a good rugby mind. I think he reads the game really well. So he's putting in the hard work. He does make errors, as we know. I've alluded to earlier on. He likes a good knock on, doesn't he? And he's not averse to dropping that ball. But I think he has got quite a good rugby brain on him, and he reads the game really well. And some of the tries that he gets, I mean, I know his one at Wakefield was very similar off a kick, wasn't it? And the one at Magic Weekend, it was a real flat pass. He was there. He was following up on that play, and he was straight through and obviously over the line. So I think that's got something to do with it, that he's reading the game as well as doing his job. He's watching what's going on around him. And I agree. I think it was probably his best game in a Rover shirt.
Yeah, Bazza, who's obviously been on the Robin Pod lots of times, he says, do you believe after that win against that lot with some heroic performances, Bazza, I'm going to have to pull you up on that, from the likes of Jez Litton, Reece Martin, and in particular Jai Whitbread, could that instill some belief back into our side and really kick on out in the league and really push for honours come the back end of the year? James, I'll direct that at you. The only caveat to that I'll say is we've gone beyond winning the derby now. They're like, winning the derby is big, but it's not it's not a thing. It's like winning the derby don't make us. It's important, but we've done it so often now. Like it is becoming, for me, another game. I know I've answered the question for you, so but it'd be I understand what you're saying, but
no, I agree. I think people do get hung up about it and think, I've got to win, got to beat that a lot. But like I said, it's become so often, happens so frequently that it's lost its special. And I was thinking, our rivals now are actually, the Wigan, Leeds, Saints, Warrington. It's not that lot, They can go and pal around the bottom with likes of Huddersfield and Cass. That's where they belong. In the swamp.
Look at the league table. Look at the league table. You only have to
exactly.
Look at
That's what I mean.
table.
Look at the swamp. When was the last time they seriously threatened us? I'm obviously I'm old enough to remember the 80s when it did mean a lot beating them. It was a big thing. It meant if you beat them, you have a good season and you sort of knock them down a peg or two. But now it's just like it's like playing York, or that's no disrespect to York. I think they've been very good this season. It's another game against that lot. It's the Wigan, the Leeds games that for me are the totem games for us now.
Well said. Right, a really long-winded question. This and Sean Michael, who's put it in. I know Sean, so he'll hopefully forgive me for shortening this, Steph. He says that loves Willie Peters, but that said, the defence is nowhere near the phenomenal standard it reached last season, and it's a small detail of things that have started to catch his eye. For example, explaining Ryan Hampshire's inclusion has been to energise the fullback position when Jack Broadbent has been exceptional, felt a little odd. It would have been simpler to say Ryan Hampshire had trained well. Injuries created opportunity and he deserved some game time. Then there's Bill Leyland's recurring limited minutes before being withdrawn, and the decision to name Noah Booth, a back on the bench who ultimately wasn't used. Individually, these things may be insignificant, but together they inevitably invite these questions. Has the uncertainty surrounding the coaching situation created some instability? Has Peter's reluctance to rotate and rest an aging squad became a concern internally, or has his tenure simply reached a natural point where fresh ideas may benefit everyone?
I think it's a combination of things, Jono. We've obviously had, we've had a lot of changes in the back, haven't we? With Luke Gale and Ian Watson coming in, Mickey Mack's gone, JWH. I don't think you can shy away from what they brought to the changing room as much as what they brought on the pitch. And I think two big characters like that are going to change things, and there's different ideas coming through. I think Willie's obviously had one eye. I know he says he's committed to ours, but P&G is still making signings. Those conversations are still going on with Willie. He's obviously having a hand in that. So there's got to be some of his concentration on that. And who can blame him? It's his next job. It's lined up. There's been the uncertainty over what coach we were going to get for next year. I know obviously that's now been bottomed out and we've got Nathan Careless, but there has been quite a lot of change happening. And there are times when a coach reaches the natural point, like he has alluded to, that sometimes what's done is done, and they can't really take it any further with what they've got. We've had a few changes in the squad. I just think that it's coming at the right time. I do think the change in the coaching setup is coming at the right time. As much as I think Willie Peters is amazing and what he's done for the club is outstanding, and it's been a wonderful time to be a Rovers supporter. But if that time for him to leave has come, then I just think that's obviously impacting what's going on in the field as well. Yeah,
and it's really tough, isn't it? Because Willie Peters was brought in to do a specific job, which was bring silverware to Hull Kingston Rovers, and he's not only done that, he's done it with aplomb. He's absolutely delivered things that we would never ever have expected. That said, I'm in two minds in terms of just because we're coming to the end of Willie Peters' tenure, because we know he's leaving and there's a new coach coming in. Are we questioning his decisions, James, more now than we would have done previously because of that? There seems to be more questioning of the decisions and should we maybe focusing more on the results, albeit the results aren't necessarily being what we achieved the season before.
Yeah, I think there is an element to that. I think because he's been, I think, very consistent in his approach to the team, and basically he's going to, says, I'm going to play the strongest team I've got, regardless of who the opposition is. I think, so the Wigan game before Wembley was a prime example. They obviously brought the kids. We played a full strength team. Whether that's, I don't think that had anything to do with the defeat at Wembley at all, if I'm honest. But then when we played York the other week as well, I think there's an opportunity there to probably rotate a few players who were looking a bit tired. You mentioned about Jesse Sewell looking a bit tired and sort of fatigued. He could have benefited from a break, but he didn't rotate. And you're thinking, well, actually, we have got a squad, and there's no getting away from it, who are getting older. We've got a few who probably do need a bit more break in there. So I think that's probably why the question is coming into it. But as you say, Steph, I think there is also the thing of that. PG are making all these signings. You're going to have a hand in. So if he's doing that, is he able to give 100% to Rovers as he was before? And he's by nature he's going to have a look on his an eye where his future is. And you may need to comment about in terms of has it run its course, and is it the time you go as far as you can do sometimes. And I go back to Justin Morgan. I think I think that happened with Justin Morgan. I think we had a fantastic time with him. He basically brought us up from the depths, got us back in Super League, made a success of Super League, but then we started to drop off, and the decline was sort of gradual. We're actually really noticing it. Then suddenly thinking, shit, we've gone from being in the playoffs to finishing 6th and 7th, and what's happened? And it probably does come down to having those fresh eyes and fresh ideas coming in. So I think there's probably an element of both in it, But like I say, he's given us things that we could never have dreamed of. If it had been here, it's been 4 seasons now. If we'd have said, go to the end of the season, we're brought, got a Challenge Cup or something like that. I think 95% of Rovers fans would have been absolutely high delighted. The fact he's got all 4. He's just stupendous, and I think we can dine out on that for years to come.
Yeah. Hopefully, we'll come in the end of the season. There's still. It'd be great to go out on one more, wouldn't it? And there's still a great opportunity.
Yeah.
See what, Seth?
Above all else, we've done things they'll never do. So
Yeah. Exactly. Things that when we started the Robin Pod, when the Robin Pod was started in 2020, I tell you what a journey it's been on, because it was started in frustration because of COVID and because of what was going on with Rovers at the time, and if you look at that 6-year journey, it's been absolutely incredible. Steph, for the final question. As things stand, and this is from Matt Baxter, who's your player of the year? His is Tyrone May and Tom Davis. Is it hard to disagree with that?
I can't disagree. I think Tyrone May this season has been absolutely outstanding. I think he's absolutely up there in the conversations for Man of Steel. And going back to what we were saying a little bit earlier on about Mikey Lewis and his game developing him, coming across as at times a little bit more mature and he's, in what he's doing, I think he's taking some more responsibility in that game, which is giving Tyrone May the freedom to be creative and play the way that he's been playing. They're a partnership at the end of the day, aren't they? And I don't think there's any coincidence that Mikey Lewis's game has changed to some degree, and you're seeing the best of Tyrone May as well. So yeah, for me, hands down, Tyrone May is our best player this year.
I'll tell you what though, James, many people questioned, didn't they? I would replace Ryan Hall.
Yeah.
And look at Tom Davis. He's not only replaced,
he's phenomenal, isn't he?
Because what I think, and Steph made a great point there, but for Tom Davis, what he's added is his try scoring, which Ryan Hall he did score some tries. He wasn't prolific though necessarily like Tom Davis. Well, yeah. It's funny that we say that on the back of Magic, where he made errors where not necessarily his fault, but Tom Davis, he's reinvented himself as a player, I think, and that's under Willie Peters. That's under So I can understand why Tom Davis is in there. Tyrone May, Tom Davis. It's quite easy why people mention them names now, James.
Yeah. I'd probably chuck Tom O'Mone in there as well. I think he's been great. I think he's sort of, he was outstanding when he played at Lee. I think he's coming and he's just added that. I think just solidity, and he plays big minutes as well. I think he's obviously got big shoes to fill in place in replacing Rory Hargreaves, and he's just a totally different player. But he's such a grafter, and the minutes he plays and the effort he puts in, Leeds when he was sort of running around with his black eye and he cut on his cheek and things like that. I'm thinking, God, just unbelievable. So I think he would probably be a big miss on Saturday.
And I've got one last question, Steph, and it's for you. And it's the last question. Does Ryan Hampshire retain his place in the side?
No, I don't think he necessarily did anything wrong, but I don't think he's our first choice. I don't think he's our best option. I think we go back with Jack Broadbent back at fullback at home. And I wouldn't be surprised to see no Booth in the team as well. At the same time, I know that Budgie's been training this week as well. So, I don't know whether or not he's done any contact yet, but he's back. He has certainly been training. Will he come out and play again? I don't think there's any reason why he can't other than pain threshold. So I think there's still a lot up in the air. I don't think Ryan Hampshire did anything wrong. I just think we've got a better option at the moment, is my opinion.
Yeah, I tell you what, Steph, your opinion is really valued because also I really appreciate your contribution. It's great to have you on the Robin Pod. I hope you can get on more as well. It'd be great to have you and Basil lining up against each other. Going forward. I might not get a word in between you, but I tell you what, Steph, it's been brilliant. What you're doing for women in rugby league, and just not about women, just your value, your opinion, and is really valued. So hopefully we'll get you back on the Robin Pod. James, of course, value your opinion. It's great to have you on the Robin Pod. Don't forget the Robin Pod is powered by Budget Ties Auto Centre, the only car specialist trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. If you go into the game on Saturday, don't forget to be loud and proud. And for now, live, love, laugh and be happy.
This is the Robin Pod. Robin Pod. This is the Robin Pod. Whoa. Throughout the years, whatever the game, the Red Army's passion is always the same. Decades pass, now we rise anew. Rovers fans, this pod is for you. We won the cup, we ruled the league. A grand final win made us all believe. The world took note with Chris Ben's fall. The Robin superb, now we won it all. Red Army, let's hear you sing with all your might. For your world champions in the red and white. We are okay, and we are the champions of the world.